Greetings, race fans, and welcome to RaceSpot TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. J.R. Gregory here with you on the call, along with my partner, Racing Ron Mons, our producer today, Ramira Augustin Cisneros. And as 2025 Season 3 rolls on, Week 4 takes us to Spa-Francorchamps. Spa is located in the Belgian countryside outside the municipality of Stavelo. Began life as a racing circuit comprised strictly of public roads, hosting its first race in 1922. The first 24-hour race was in 1924, and 100 years ago in 1925, they held their first Grand Prix. Currently host to F1, the World Endurance Championship, and the European Le Mans Series. Our current configuration, 4.3 miles, 7 clicks, 20 corners, and our current track record, a 144.7 by Checo in a Red Bull F1 car last year. So, Ron, this season's schedule takes us to 10, count them, 10 past or present Formula One circuits. And like many of those tracks, Spa really lets these radicals shine.
Spa with the SR10s is a must-watch spectacle. Every single time it comes about during one of these seasons, it puts on some of the most fantastic racing action and some of the most hectic racing for these drivers as well. It is not going to be a calm, cool, and collected day here. You know, you think of Spa, you think of two things. You think of a place that puts cucumbers on your eyes, and I think of this track here. Those two experiences could not be farther apart for these racers. It is going to be a stressful day behind the wheel. But we are getting farther along into the season. After today's race, we will officially be through the first third of Season 3 of 2025 here for these 2100 GMT broadcasted races. So what a way to round off the first third.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is your top 10. And you may recall James Berry, a past multiple champion, took a little bit of a breather last season. He threw down the gauntlet at the beginning of this season and told us he was going for it. He wanted to win that championship again. And look at him, Ron. He's about 150 points ahead of Rafa Blanco in P2. Gullickson will round out the top 3. Then there's a tight fight between Reitinen, Jordan, and Paki Caruso for P4 there. Then it's Ivan V, Heinz Braun, Leon Hernandez, and Marcos Roca rounding out the top 10 so far on the season. A couple of new names on that list, which is really, really great to see.
Yeah, nice to see new life being breathed in here into the Radical SR10 community. We have got some of the best racers here on the iRacing platform. JR, you've said this for many, many moons when it comes to these broadcasts, but it is very well said and just. Mastery of the Radical SR10 here on the iRacing platform will make you better in just about every single car that you can drive. Hey, we're in the weekend of the Spa 24-hour here in iRacing, and you'll be able to catch that action this upcoming weekend, both here on the RaceSpot TV YouTube channel and the iRacing Esports network. So these drivers getting in a bit more seat time, running in these absolute missiles that are these SR10s. These are very fast cars, as we see Rafael Blanco, the reigning champion here in the Radical Esports Cup, come across the line saying a 2:12. These cars are fast, these drivers are fast, and we have got an absolutely stacked grid full of both veterans of these SR10s and racers in real life. Andre Castro, your current P4 qualifier, right off the back of running in the Xfinity Series race on the Chicago Street Course last weekend. He's here with us today, and he's got to look to put on a good show. A multi-time winner last season here in the E-Cup. Let's see what he can do here for round number 4 of Season 3.
Yeah, hell of a grid out here today. And looking down the timing tower right now as qualifying times are beginning to come in, Ron, our top 10 drivers all under 2:12, which is absolutely smoking around here. And as qualifying winds down, I want to remind everybody, this is not a private or league event. We're broadcasting the iRacing officials here, 2100 GMT, as we do every Friday. So if you would like to give these fantastic radicals a whirl, practice up, show up, and sign up. And if you make the top split, you can appear both on RaceSpot TV and on the official iRacing YouTube channel, alongside some of the best radical drivers in the world. And if you recall some of the names on that top 10 list, they are all out here right now, and we are in for an absolute barn burner of a race at Spa. And you know, an interesting twist thrown in, Ron. You see headlights on, and it ain't sunrise, it is sunset. So this one is going to go into the darkness, just to throw a little bit of a curveball at these drivers here today.
And JR, it's been quite some time since we saw the Radical Esports Cup have a race during one of these seasons that was held under the lights. I'm trying to remember, in fact, the last time we had it. It may have been at Sebring a couple of seasons ago, but regardless, it has been a little while since we saw these drivers run under the lights, and that can result in a whole lot of different things. Usually with racetracks under that glaring sun, you'll see a large discrepancy between the ambient temperatures and the track temperatures. Not really getting that here. I believe the other track temperatures at the moment only 2 degrees warmer Fahrenheit wise and only 1 degree warmer Celsius wise compared to the ambient temperature. 70 Fahrenheit for the ambient, 72 as the track temperatures. Those conditions are pretty much perfect, and with still winds and relative humidity that isn't too high, these drivers are going to have a boatload of grip here tonight. So expect a really interesting and really fun race for these drivers in a season that has been packed with parity up to this point. Already 3 different winners in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races, and the winner of the first one this season, Sebastian Lipp, your winner at the Red Bull Ring a couple of weeks ago, currently sitting on the provisional pole alongside his brother, Christoph.
Yeah, and what a grid, Ron. I have now got 15 cars all underneath that 2-minute, 13-second barrier. So these guys are absolutely flying, and might as well start beating that dead horse right now. The draft here is going to be having a large impact on this race, as it always does in any facility with long straightaways like we have here at Spa. And what I want you guys to watch for today is what happens on inside defense, both coming off the Kemmel Straight and coming off the back straight into the bus stop. It's very easy for the lead driver in a close competition to cover the inside. If you want to get something done here at Spa, you've got to master that outside move into Lacombe and into the bus stop. I promise you we're going to see it today, and that's how you set yourself apart from other drivers here at Spa. And let's go ahead and take a look at that Lipp starting grid. It is the 2 Lipps up front, Sebastian next to Christoph in row 1. Then it's Gullickson next to Andre Castro in 3 and 4. James Barry, your current points leader, will be in P5, lined up next to Heinz Braun in P6. And in row 4, it'll be Nagelfort next to Kjetil Larsen, Sauli Reitinen next to Luca Morelli behind them. Then Franco Sanchez Buckley will line up next to Paqui Caruso in row 6. And then it's Pesavento next to Rafael Blanco, Jorge Gonzaga next to Matthias Arevalo, Leon Hernandez next to Kenji Murata in 17 and 18. And then Christopher Yanakis will line up next to Nicholas Ledke, and Jarek Dunkovic will bring up the rear in P21. And Ron, I think you said we had 3 splits in this one, so people have shown up here at Spa, and this is a very high strength of field that you're seeing right here, and our 2100 GMT time slot is always the biggest strength of field in these Radical races. And as you see the grid right there, that is Sebastian Lipp with a nose ahead there, so he is going to have the inside run into the first run through the hairpin. Ice cold tires, no traction control, and a standing start. So the first challenge for these drivers: get those Radicals off the line.
I would say the challenge that immediately follows that challenge to get off the line is just to make it through turn 1 clean. We've seen in real life and in this sim how that turn La Source can usually end in disaster if one driver even makes a mistake. So these drivers have to have confidence in themselves, their machines, and each other to have a clean start here and get this race underway.
Yeah, too right. La Source can be la source of le misery, and we'll see how they do the first time. It's getting them off the line and getting them woed up for that very slow second gear right-hander that starts the first dash towards the long straight. And we are green, and Sebastian Lipp getting off pretty well. Gullickson is trying to stuff it down the middle here. Gullickson is going to cut off Christoph Lipp. Sebastian is going to come out of La Source in P1. It's Sebastian Lipp from Gullickson, from Christoph Lipp, from Barry, from Castro. And what a start by Gullickson, and Christoph Lipp with a forgettable start, Ron.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it was a two lips not getting off to a flyer or the absolute hole shot there from Havard Gullikson. He's now going to use a slingshot to try and get this move done to take the race lead. Look at the run, look at the draft, look at these drivers fanning out, even driving into the dirt a little bit farther in the back. They're 3 wide for the race lead. Christoph Lipp looking to jump back into it. He does right there. Havard Gullikson slot in P2. Sebastian Lipp rounds out your podium with some side-by-side racing with Castro, Barry, Nagelvoort, Braun, everybody going side-by-side. Everyone wants a lead lap 1 here at Spa, but only one person can do it. We still have one more big overtaking opportunity down to the chicane, but these drivers still have a monster of a mid-sector to handle with first.
Yeah, Christoph Lipp showing the skills and the stones. He lost 2 positions off of the start and knuckled down and got them both back on the entry to Lacombe there. And these tires, Ron, take a couple of laps to really get in the sweet spot. So still a little bit sketchy to push, but Christoph showing his abilities there in those radicals. It is now Christoph Lipp from Gullikson, from Sebastian, from Castro, from James Barry, and the cars sticking together pretty well here, and as is typical, any track with a long straightaway, that slipstream effect is going to kind of suck these cars together. They're going to be training up, and so far, not an appreciable gap forming anywhere. So we are going to be nose to tail after 1 of 11 laps here at Spa, and a great view here. Nagelvoort right along, and he is looking ahead at James Barry going through Blanchimont there. That is flat out in these cars, and there you go. You see Castro moving over, trying to cover the inside against Barry. Barry sticks it around the outside, breaking deep, and does he beat Castro to that second apex? He doesn't, and actually his exit there compromised Nagelvoort now next to him, and Nagelvoort is going to try to press his luck here on La Source, and Nagelvoort gonna slide it through. So Barry's attack on Castro backfiring there, and actually Barry has now lost 2 positions. So the wheels kind of falling off for James right now.
Yeah, not a great start at all for your current championship points leader heading into this race. James Barry is a calm, cool, and collected customer, though. He is that driver who will always be there at the end. Doesn't matter what sort of difficulties he runs into midway through the race or right towards the start. He can always dust himself off well. It's good in the world of racing, whether it be in real life or in the sim, to have a little bit of short-term memory loss. If you have that bad stuff riding in the back of your head for too long, it's really going to affect you. I think I heard someone with a big slide as they headed their way off out of the chicane. That was off through turn number 7. That could have ended in tears for those racers, but thankfully they've kept it clean. But a rather clean start here at Spa. We have seen some side-by-side racing, and the other battle going on just barely outside the top 10 towards the end of the lap. I got eyes on that myself, and I saw the absolute pandemonium that was going on there. But outside of a pit stop for Nicholas Ledecky, not sure whether or not there's a meatball flag for him, or if he's just made that call to come down pit lane for some other reason. It's been a very clean start here at Spa. These drivers know the deal with this race. You just need to be there at the end. It's cool to get some good moves done in the earlier stages, but you just need to be there on that white flag to even have a chance at getting a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we've seen time and time again, particularly here at Spa, the driver who crosses the line first and takes that white flag can be a sitting duck if the cars behind are within draft range. And you're not really seeing many intervals open up out here on Course Run. The top 16 cars, there is no gap among those top 16 longer than 1 second. So really some outstanding competition right there. There is a little nose in. That is a peak inside. That's Sebastian showing his nose to his teammate Christoph, and there's Nagelvoort kind of pushing Braun outside the exit of the bus stop. Those two were cooperating the last time. You saw Braun giving Nagelvoort a little bump push down the straightaway, and oh my goodness, Braun under attack there by Barry, and you can't get caught napping with James Barry behind you. Barry's now going to pick up the draft from Nagelvoort, and Braun is going to lose out on that one.
Kettle Larson making the call to come down pit lane. So we've seen 2 pit stops in the first 2 laps. Let's see if we can continue that on with 3. But Heinz Braun and Brandon Nagelvoort going side by side. They're now going to be 3 wide. They head their way down the Camel straightaway off into the chicane. Look at James Barry trying to play that game of SR10 leapfrog. Gets it done to jump his way up into the top 5 as Heinz Braun and Brandon Nagelvoort continue to fight. I will say, though, those drivers not doing themselves too many favors as you look at the likes of Paki Caruso Caruso, Sally Wrighton, and Rafael Blanco as well, running all the way down in 10th. That is not a good position to be in for your reigning champion. As we take a look at the moment involving Kettle Larson, and oh, it was contact being made. That was himself and Ludecky. You can see Ludecky in that Skittles car, tasting the rainbow and tasting a bit of that IGL Coatings car of Kettle Larson with nowhere to go. Took a chomp out of the front end of both of those race cars. They're both in the pits. Ludecky's out, and Larson, I'm sure, has major damage to repair before he can even think about rejoining this race.
Yeah, both of those radicals have taken a tow, and they're you saw the yard sale there on the side of the track, and you're right. Once Larson over-rotated and looped it there, Ludecky nowhere to go, speared him in the side, and there goes one of our very quick runners, Kettle Larson. It's typical top 10 and even top 5 contender, and 3 laps down up front, it is Lip from Gullickson, from Sebastian Lip, from Castro, from Barry, and Barry has got some work to do. He was messing around with Braun and Nagelvort there. You saw him lose a couple positions and get those back, but he has a chasm in front of him, 3 seconds forward to Castro, who's going to be getting a tow from those top top 3 cars. So Barry really has some work to do, and if these guys get away, man, if you miss the train here, you're going to be late for work, Ron.
Yeah, and touching back on the pack that we were following a little bit earlier on, involving the likes of James Barry, Heinz Braun, Brandon Nagelfort, Sally Wrighton, and others. A bit of a reprieve for the 3 of Barry, Braun, and Nagelfort, because it was a moment for Packy Caruso, heading his way out of turn number 15, ran a little bit wide, hit that gravel trap. This is the newer scan of Spa that we have here in the sim. It was introduced a couple of seasons ago. More gravel traps in some spots, more asphalt runoff areas in other. Hit the gravel trap coming out turn 15, dropped down like a rock. He's currently slotted in P at number 9 at the present moment, so a bit of a reprieve for those racers. We'll have to keep tabs on that battle to see whether it splits a little bit more. Vard Gullickson is your current race leader. Christoph Lipp slotted in P2. Those drivers, though, are still just as close as they have been since the drop of the green flag, as I think there may have been a moment involving Oscar Pesavento. There may have been a moment for him down into the Lake Home chicane. Not sure whether it was a spin or contact, but he's dropped down to P18. The last of the cars currently out here on the racetrack.
And meanwhile, that last run down the Kemmel Straight saw Gullickson take the lead. Game of leapfrog, as Ron said. It's now Gullickson from Christoph Lipp, from Andre Castro, from Sebastian Lipp. And you saw that time, too, down the straightaway. Heinz Braun has found a new bumping buddy there, as you saw him trying to push Barry forward so that the both of them could catch up with that front 4-car train. However, not a lot of progress there. That gap from Barry up to Sebastian Lipp still sitting about 3.2. Plenty of time left, but as I said, it's going to have to be some hard pedaling for Barry, Braun, Nagelfort, Reitman, and that train to get caught up with that front train. And speaking of that front train, looks like Lipp is kind of dropping off the back of that as we go through the middle sectors. And if he can't close that down by the time we get back on the straightaway, he's going to fall off that train and fall prey to Barry and Braun behind.
And, you know, looking at these 4 racers representing 3 separate teams, you've got Andre Castro pretty much marching to the beat of his own drum there in that rather plain Jane looking number 2 SR10 here, currently slotted in 3rd. But you've got the former champion here in the Esports Cup, the champion for Season 1 of 2025 of Havard Gullickson, nearly went back-to-back in Season 2, but just got bipped right towards the end by Rafael Blanco. However, with those two, you've also got Christoph and Sebastian Lipp. Not only are they teammates at Nerd Racing, they're brothers as well. I gotta wonder whether or not that brotherly bond will help out those two to try and get into victory lane, let alone being teammates. We've got side-by-side racing, though, Lipp and Castro down into the Lake Home chicane, and that's got to be Castro jumping up into the race lead. Christoph Lipp slotted in P2. Pandemonium a little bit farther behind, though. Look at the slide from Braun.
And Braun drifting the night away there in Lacombe as kind of let Barry get away from him there. And Nagelvort almost had a crack at Braun, do that little bobble. And Nagelvort still working on Braun as we go through Brussels. Braun will have the inside run into the next corner there. And Braun not shy about slamming the door in the face of the competitor behind. But my goodness, some great action in the second train, which is now Barry from Braun, from Nagelvort, from Reitman, and nice check that, Caruso has gotten past Reitman. So some great fighting going on in that secondary train, we'll call it, Ron. About coming up on halfway through this one, and an action-packed race at Spa.
And that was a move from Packy Caruso down into turn number 10, a move through Puan. I have seen some of these Radical SR10 drivers do some very, very brave things over the 2+ years that have gotten the opportunity to cover this official series. But that may have been one of the craziest things, a move down to turn 10. I mean, JR, you, I, pretty much everybody tuning into this broadcast has experience running around Spa here on the iRacing platform. So to go for a move in these SR10s, which, let's face it, the front end of those race cars, you need to really work with the car. You can't just attack it every single time, otherwise the car's going to attack you. So for a move like that to go down into turn number 10, that is absolutely outrageous. Fantastic stuff from these racers. As we take a look at a moment involving Oscar Pesavento, that was a moment down into the Lacombe chicane. I thought it was a slud. It was actually contact with himself and Leon Hernandez on the inside. I took a look at that not terribly long ago. Looked like there's a little bit of netcode involved in that, about a foot of separation between those cars. But we've got international racers here in this series. It's just a part of iRacing. Stuff like that happens from time to time as we've got the battling yet again up at the front.
Yeah, the leapfrog continuing, coming off of that long straight into Lacombe, and this time it is going to be lip ahead, and it's the lip from Castro, from Gullickson, from Sebastian, should have said Christoph in the lead there to avoid confusion. But yeah, Christoph from Andre, from Havard Gullickson, from Lip, and Barry now about 3.5 seconds off of that front train run. So these front four driving away, and while Barry is sitting pretty with a 150-point lead, coming in a P5 here is not going to help his championship hopes for the season.
Yeah, you know, James Barry, he's a driver that runs for the numbers. He's not going to be throwing everything in the kitchen sink at one of these races, just hoping that something sticks and then ending up in the barriers. Barry's a driver who will take a good point stay, even if it's not the best result in the world. He'll try and look for some of the other races throughout this season. There's a very good reason why James Barry is a 4-time champion here in the Radical Esports Cup, and the reigning the 2024 Radical European champion as well. So he is a brilliant driver in these SR10s, but I am a little bit surprised that he's not getting involved in that front pack fight. It may have been that loss of position a little bit earlier on, as he had to scrape and claw for those spots to get back into a spot where he could shake off the rest of the competition. The top four just start to pull away from him. Whether it be that or whether it be him not feeling too confident in these under the lights conditions at Spa, whatever it may be, James Barry, I think he'll walk away from this race with a P5, which it's not the worst result in the world, but for a 4-time champion, I'm sure there's a little voice in his head that would want to be involved in that battle for the win instead of just walking away from this race with a good points haul.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. But as you pointed out, Ron, 3 different winners so far in 3 weeks. And despite the fact that Barry has won only one of those, has a pretty substantial gap in the points in P1 on the season. So, you know, I've called him the little professor before, and a shout out to Alain Prost. And Barry just gets done what he needs to get done, and doesn't do anything crazy when he's got points within his grasp. And there is a little side-by-side entry. That is Gullickson and Lip testing their luck, going side-by-side into Lacombe, and Gullickson is going to come out on top of that. Now it's Gullickson from Christoph, from Castro, from Sebastian, as that front four shuffles every lap down into Lacombe's. What a great race here.
Oh, it is absolutely fantastic here for round number 4 of season 3 for the 2025 Radical Esports Cup. And for all of you tuning into this broadcast on the iRacing Esports Network, happen to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on this fantastic Radical SR10 action here on the iRacing Esports Network and the Race Spot TV YouTube channel, because this is some of the best racing you can see on iRacing. I've been able to cover this series ever since March of 2023. This series was a first ever one one that I got the opportunity to broadcast. These cars put on some fantastic racing, and here at Spa, it is a happy hunting ground in terms of getting good racing action. We've seen that game of leapfrog play out, heading down that Camel straightaway, and even through the tight twisties around this track, these drivers have not been hesitating to go for moves, go for sends, go for dives, and give us some action to talk about here on this broadcast. Some fantastic stuff. It's right now 7-11 here on the East Coast of the U.S., at least in terms of the date, and we're on lap 7 of 11 in this race. Let's see who's going to have the convenient run to the line.
Oh, and you see Caruso with a big move on Nagelvort there, and somehow along the way, Ron, we lost Heinz Braun. Heinz Braun was right up in that front group trying to chase down Barry. Braun has now fallen to P10, so he must have had some kind of incident that we missed, but right now Barry is kind of on an island by himself with 3 seconds ahead to Lip and 4 seconds back to Caruso. Caruso now leading that train for P6. It's Caruso from Nagelvort, from Blanco, from Reitinen, from Heinz Braun. So I don't know if that was just a huge slipstream shuffle that happened to Braun, but Braun's fortunes definitely change. And speaking of leapfrog, here we go one more time in Lacombe. This time, not a lot of shuffling. They're nose to tail. It's Christoph from Castro, from Gullikson, from Sebastian, and all four of those cars covered by about 1 second. So this is the point in the race run where I think they're gonna take a breath and start thinking about what their end game is, and whether or not they're going to be able to end in P1. And you and I, Ron, as you said, have seen many of these races, and many of them at Spa. And I'm going to go out and say that any of these top 4 drivers have an equal crack at P1 by the time this one's over.
And, you know, we also got a 50-50 shot of continuing on that streak thus far this season of different winners here in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races. You've got Havard Gullikson and Sebastian Lip slot in P3 and P4. They won races back-to-back in the reverse order of where they're running at right now. Sebastian Lip was able to get the job done at the Red Bull Ring for week number 1, and for week 2, Watkins Glen, Havard Gullikson was able to get the job done there. When you think of those two tracks, certainly got their own flat-out blast, but between the two, I would probably say that Watkins Glen is the more draft-heavy one, but at the same time, there's really nothing that you can say about Spa to compare it to some other racetracks. It is a unique racetrack, this, but if I had to compare between the two, I would say Watkins Glen is closer of a fit to Spa than the Red Bull Ring is, even though it's much closer geographically than Watkins Glen. So we take a look at a moment involving Luca Morelli down into, oh no, contact being made and bang into the wall. That's a huge hit for the 8 car. Side-by-side racing all through Eau Rouge and Radion. There's only one way that can end, really, and that is horrifically wrong.
Yeah, that was rough stuff there, and kind of a call back to Kevin Magnussen. I remember him going off and hitting in that same area. Very high speed right there, and would not want to be on that ride at all. And that's the kind of thing that happens when you try that entry of Eau Rouge side by side. Sometimes it works, but the slightest little touch can upset those cars, and that is the result. And again, everybody's nose to tail this time in that front 4. Nobody peeking, nobody trying anything. It's Christoph from Castro, from Gullikson, from Sebastian, and still all 4 of those cars separated by about 1.2 seconds, P1 to P4. And meanwhile, Caruso has gotten past James Barry, and there's so much thrilling action in 1 through 4. We're kind of missing some stuff in this back train, but Caruso has gotten past Barry, still hanging with him and all over him. But it's Caruso from Barry, from Nagelvort now, with less than a second between those 3 cars fighting for P5.
Yeah, and that's the thing when it comes to Spa. I've said this many times on these shows, and I will say it yet again. I gotta feel bad for our producer, Mr. Ramiro Augustin Cisneros, having to look at about 14 million different things at once. He has to be a chameleon trying to look at all the action that we got out here on the track. It is insane stuff that we got at Spa. Every single season when these cars show up here, they put on an absolute show, and I have a feeling that this is gonna be a grandstand finish. You've got 4 of the best in the Radical Esports Cup. Christoph Lipp and Andre Castro yet to get a win thus far this season, but they accounted for multiple wins in Season 2. And then you've got the 2 drivers who have already visited victory lane in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races. A big talent pool at the front of this field. 4 drivers all packed in like sardines as they complete the third to last lap and start the second to last lap. I really don't know who's going to win this race, and frankly, I don't think we'll know for sure who's going to win this race until that race leader comes out of the final turn on that white flag lap.
Yeah, and we've seen a couple of times around in past races that the races are decided in the bus stop. So the pass for the lead might happen within sight of the finish line here at Spa. And I'll tell you what, Castro has been all over lap after lap. He's backing out of it, coming through Blanchimont towards the bus stop, lap after lap. You saw him backing out of it right there. And with the little side-by-side entry now into Lacombe, and that looks like Sebastian pushing through. That's Sebastian Lipp, got a twofer there. I think he was running in P4. He at least got one car, got Castro, might have gotten Gullickson as well. So now it's the 2 Lipps up front, Christoph from Sebastian, with Andre Castro and Havard Gullickson still right with them in that front train. This is lap 10 of 11, so we are on the penultimate lap here, and that second train, Caruso, Barry, and Nagelvort still glued together pretty well. Barry only has about a 3/10 gap up to Caruso. So we got those 3 cars fighting for P5, and that 4-car train up front fighting for the win. And yeah, you're not kidding about the talent pool out here, Ron. I know Christoph and Castro are 7K plus, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there's nobody in the top 6 or 7 that is below 6K. So a very, very deep talent pool here. Some outstanding drivers, and that leads to the kind of racing that you're seeing right here.
We've got a fantastic talent pool of racers, and we got a fantastic finish coming up here. You've got the 2 brothers, Christoph and Sebastian, running P1 and P2. As much as it was definitely a move reminiscent of the shake and bake as they headed their way down the Kemmel Straight off into the Lacombe chicane, I'm not sure if that's going to be the good call for either of these 2. They're going to be P1, P2 at the start of this final lap. I have a feeling they may not be there at the end of this last lap, as a white flag's in the air. 1 more lap of racing action and 4 miles to go for these racers. I think the driver that played it the smartest last time by was your P4 runner at the moment of Havard Gullickson. He's won these races at Spa in the past. He's won these championships in the past. He wants to return to championship form. He wants to return to that spot. He's got a 1.2 second lead between himself and Christoph Lipp, but with these drafts, that can disappear with the snap of a finger.
It really can, Ron, but I gotta say, I think Sebastian is doing the work of a wingman right there. He was pushing Castro back and Castro said, I don't like that. You're pushing me back. That's BS. Check out the grass. And Castro gets through. Sebastian definitely guarding his brother's flank right there. And Castro says, no way, pushes it through. What a move by Andre Castro. There's still some opportunities ahead. Lipp only 2/10 back. Christoph Lipp only 2/10 back, but what a move by Castro, throwing the elbows out when it counted.
That right there is the move of a driver that you know for sure just a matter of 1 week ago was running a NASCAR car at a street race. He knows that sometimes in racing you have to get a little bit physical. I'm not saying that wasn't physical. That was most certainly physical as they headed their way down the Kemmel straightaway, but it's worked out well for Castro. Let's see if the Lipps will try and work together to try and move their way up into the race lead yet again. Will we see a little bit of bump drafting? We've seen that already in this race. I'm just not sure if they're close enough together. Sebastian Lipp is being hounded at the moment by Havard Gullickson. That's nearly 5/10 of a second between those 2 racers as they head their way out of turn 15 for the final time. I think this may be Castro's. As Christoph Lipp can get the job done, he's going to have to do it alone.
Yeah, Castro's sitting pretty right now. Lipp is going to have an opportunity to make a dive into the bus stop, but he's pretty far back. But watch that gap drop as that slipstream going to work. Castro will cover the inside like I talked about. Can Christoph beat him to that second apex? And the answer is no. Castro, you saw the move that won it. Christoph Lipp was in P1 with his brother pushing back on Castro to guard his flank, and Castro said, no way, baby. This is the way we do it in New York. York. This is the way we do it in NASCAR. Get the hell out of my way. Castro wins it. It is Castro from Lip, from Havard Gullikson, and Ron. Spa never disappoints.
And with that win for the number 2 of Andre Castro, the streak continues through the first third of this season. We've had 4 separate winners and very talented racers. All 4 of them have been, and they've all had to muscle their way into victory lane, whether it be winning in a draft fest or winning in a race that can be a bit hectic, or just winning around a track that is so challenging that you have to be at the top of your game to try and do well. All of the winners thus far this season have definitely earned their spot to get that job done, but Andre Castro gets it done here at Spa. After 11 laps, he is victorious.
Oh my goodness, that was absolutely nuts. And there are your final results. Castro with the victory. We'll come across in P1, Christoph Lip in P2, Havard Gullikson rounding out your podium. Then Sebastian Lip. James Berry somehow withstood the onslaught from about 4 or 5 different drivers trying to flog him out of P5. Then it's Nagelvort, Paki Caruso, Sauli Reitinen, Rafael Blanco, and Heinz Braun rounding out your top 10. Still wasn't able to figure out what happened to Braun back there, but it's Hernandez from Buckley, from Christopher Yanakis. Arvello will be in 14th, and Oscar Pesavento, who had some problems, still managed to claw his way back up to P15. Then George Gonzaga, Kenji Murata, Kettle Larson, Luca Morelli, Nicholas Ledicki will round out your top 20. And I think that is it. We had Dunkovic on the grid, but does not appear in the final listings here. He might not have taken the start. But my goodness, Ron, what a fantastic race! And let's go ahead and bring in your winner, Andre Castro. And Andre, holy cow. I gotta say, it really looked like the Lip brothers had this race figured out. Christoph was in the lead, had Sebastian guarding his flank and kind of breathing the throttle and pushing you back away. And you said no to both of them and made that pass happen on the Kemmel Straight. So talk me through that.
Yeah, I knew if I were in third, I could have a pretty good run coming down the Kemmel Straight, so kind of worked out that way. I had to hold off Havard for third, and then yeah, just had to shoot the gap there. It was a pretty small gap. I 4x'd Sebastian there, which I apologize for. Just kind of pushed him a little bit in the grass in the straightaway. That was not something I expected to happen at all, but yeah, I wasn't gonna lift there. Just knew that I needed to take the lead right there and then try to hold it for the rest of the lap. So that's what we did. And the rest of the race is just about keeping it clean and staying in the draft. With those 3 guys are super quick, so I knew that none of us could pull away. So it was just about being in the right place at the right time. I got a bit lucky with being third there, but as soon as I realized that I wasn't third, I just stayed there because I thought I could get the run, and that's what happened. So it worked out.
Yeah, we definitely see a lot of twofers in these SR10s coming off the Kemmel Straight into Lacombe, and yeah, you definitely put the gauntlet down there. Excellent drive, Andre. And looking ahead at the next couple of races, any tracks you're excited about getting onto, or any tracks that you're not that stoked about coming up on the upcoming schedule?
Honestly, I don't know what is coming up on the schedule. I think, are we doing Bathurst again?
Bathurst did not make it this time. We got a handful, a fistful of F1 tracks this time. I was telling Ron prior to the broadcast, 10 out of our 12 tracks are current or past F1 tracks. So, all right, well, I'm not going to make you do the pop quiz on the upcoming schedule, but man, oh man, what a fantastic drive, Andre. And as we wrap it up today, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, teammate Chris Wett's 1 second split, so it was nice to get 2 wins at the same time. And yeah, thanks to everybody in that pack for racing clean. It was good with the Lip brothers and with Havard to get away from the rest of the field. That was definitely a big priority. So that was good that we were able to do that, and everybody raced generally with their head on their shoulders. And yeah, and thanks again to you guys. I've been a bit more busy this season, but I'd love to make it to more of these, so keep up the good work on the broadcast.
Yeah, and you as well. Great drive by everybody that you mentioned and a fantastic show. And I know you'll take a minute to check out the broadcast later, and you ought to enjoy it. It was a fantastic race to watch. So that is Andre Castro, your P1 driver today, who really put on a hell of a drive and a smart drive down the stretch, making his move at the right time to get the victory. So, Ron, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Havard Gullikson for you, who came out of that heavyweight fight in P3.
Yeah, Havard, welcome into the commentary booth, man. That race was absolutely wild. It's Spa. I'm sure none of us were really expecting anything but that. So, how was the race from your perspective here tonight?
It was okay. Had a good start, and we quickly was, I think, 4 guys fighting for the win. I got the shortest straw on the last laps, and from P4 on the last lap, it's impossible. But Sebastian did a small mistake on the last corner into the final lap, and yeah, P3 is okay.
And I honestly thought that you were going to be the one to keep an eye out for their heading down the Kemmel straightaway, but interesting to hear that even though you were probably getting the strongest draft out of everybody, just too far back to get a move done heading down that stretch. But Spa, it's always a draft race, and we got some pretty interesting drafting races to look forward to throughout the rest of the season. Next week, in fact, going to be running at Thruxton, one of the newest tracks here on the iRacing platform. That track is quick. I'm sure that race is going to be absolutely insane. So what are your thoughts heading there for next week?
A new track for me, so I have to try and practice a bit, but new track is always fun, so I'm optimistic and will try to beat the other fast guys.
And I already have a win up to this point in the season at Watkins Glen a couple of weeks ago. So waiting to see if you'll bring that car back into victory lane for win number 2 at some point before the end of the season. Havard, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary booth. Always good to have a chat with you. And we'll let you give any thanks or shouts out before we let you go.
Yes, thank you guys for always putting on this good show. Always watch it in replay, so very good. And congratulations to both Castro and Christoph with first and second place, and of course my teammates and the team, IGL Coatings and Sande Trafikkskole.
An absolutely fantastic podium from you at the end of this race, Havard. Thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth, and looking forward to seeing you out there on the racetrack at Thruxton in 1 week's time.
Thank you. See you then.
Wow, Ron, and what a fantastic race. And as you mentioned, one of our newer racetracks coming up next week, Thruxton. And it's always good to see these new tracks. You know, we're out here driving at Spa. Every driver out there has had thousands and thousands of laps on Spa, and not going to be the case here for Thruxton. There's going to be a learning experience for a lot of these guys, going to be probably out there in anger for the first time. So you'll want to make sure and join us for that next Friday, 2100 GMT. We'll again be back here on RaceSpot TV and on the official iRacing YouTube channel for top split action from the Radical Esports Cup. Well, that is it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us for today's broadcast of Week 4, 2025, Season 3 of the Radical Esports Cup. I am JR Gregory. On behalf of myself, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, our producer, Ramiro Cisneros, and everyone here at RaceSpot TV, have a great Friday and an even better weekend. Yeah, that was sweet.
Fun.
That was